Hey guys, this is Rian of Momma on Mission, and if you are new here, I am a Christ-following homeschool wife and a mom to 3 boys. So if you like all things homeschool, biblical womanhood, and book-related, make sure you stick around and hit that subscription button down below, as well as the notification bell, and you will be notified anytime we upload. And today is my monthly book recs and what's next video. This was a collab started by myself and Ingrid. Ingrid's kind of been on a hiatus lately, which is totally fine. But I've decided to keep doing this because I love sharing with you guys what we're reading in our homeschool, what I'm reading personally, what my kids are reading, because I don't know about you, but I love to get good book recommendations, and I just like talking about books. So this month for me was a lighter reading month. I think that had to do with school kind of starting back up full force. We are year-round homeschoolers, but we had kind of, what we typically do is kind of just as we finish books, we don't start our next level of book until usually mid-August. This year we started the beginning of August, and so I had a lot more planning to do. I had a lot more reading aloud to do with my kids, so that didn't leave as much time for me to read, but I'm hoping to kind of get things figured out to where I can have some more time to read again. And so what I did get through this month was I did finish Shattered Dreams, which is a book by Irene Spencer, and this is her story of being a polygamist's wife. She was in the Mormon church, where they believe in plural marriage, and just telling her story of the hardships there, and how she got out of it. There is a sequel to this that I will also be reading. I have it somewhere, but and it goes more into detail about the Mormon church itself. But this was a very, very good read. I give this 5 stars. I love a good biography, but hers was exceptionally good because it dove into the Mormon church, which not a lot of people know about, the fundamentalists, and you know, just some of the hardships that you wouldn't think about, having sister wives and so many kids around and no money, and it was a very moving book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then I started the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Next month I will let you know what I thought about this. I don't know how I've gone so long without reading this, but I have a ton of C.S. Lewis back here, but I just have only read a few of them somehow. So far enjoying this. It is very fitting for our time, and I'll let you know next month what I thought. Then I also am currently reading The Read Aloud Family by Sarah Mackenzie. I'll insert a picture here. I don't have it on hand, and I'm also listening to it. So I have followed Sarah Mackenzie for quite a while. I've listened to some of her podcasts. I always look up her reading suggestions. That's where I get a lot of the reading for my boys and for my read alouds. And I just adore her and her heart for homeschool, and what a passion she has for reading and for using stories to really build your child's character and to just build those bonds between yourself and your children. And this book really dives into that, onto why reading aloud is important and how to do it better, and just giving a lot of practical advice, but also just explaining like how important it is to read good stories with your family. And so once I finish that, again, I will give my full review next month. And then for nonfiction. For fiction, I did very little reading this month, which is very unusual for me. But I don't have it sitting here, but I did finish The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street by, who wrote that? Karina Jan Glasser. And I did enjoy that. I gave that 4.5 stars. That was a very lighthearted, good, of course it's geared more toward children, but lighthearted but sweet story of the Vanderbeekers who were getting kicked out of their home and how they try to fix that. And just each character you really get to know and love, and there was excellent character development, and it was just a very enjoyable book. And then I also had this book on hold for a while and finally got it. This is The Pinderwicks on Gardam Street. This is the second book in the Pinderwick series by Jeannie Birdsall, and I'm probably a third of the way through. And again, this is also meant for children, but I kind of meant this and Vanderbeekers kind of as a pre-read to see if it was something my boys would like. And Vanderbeekers, I think they would. I might give it another year or so. But the Pinderwicks is kind of girly, and so I don't know that my boys would love it, but they might. I don't know. But I really enjoy it because it has 4 girls, 4 sisters in it, and I come from a family of 4 girls, and so I can just relate to a lot of this. And again, really sweet, lighthearted, fun. But they do face real problems, and so there is a lot there, but I will give my full review of this next month. And that is all the reading I got to do. I listened to a lot of podcasts this month because I can do that while lesson planning and while cleaning and everything else. But that's all I got for you. So my kids will make up for it because since school started, they've been doing a lot more reading. We make them read all through the summer, at least 30 minutes a day. And then we do read alouds and such. But since we picked a literature-based curriculum, they just have added even more books on. So for my 4th grader, he read The Boxcar Children, The Mystery of the Wild West Bandit. And he gave this book 5 stars. He said this was one of the better Boxcar Children books. And of course, this is by Gertrude Chandler Warner. Can't really go wrong with Boxcar Children. Then and then after that, he read Indian in the Cupboard by Lynn Reed Banks. We had read this as a read aloud last year, but he wanted to give it a reread, which I do not oppose that. And he gave this 4 stars. Said it was good. And then he followed that with The Return of the Indian by Lynn Reed Banks. And this is obviously the sequel to Indian in the Cupboard, and I have never read this, so I was curious to see what he thought of it. He gave it a 4 stars also, and I do think we will be probably reading this aloud eventually. But yeah, I thought it was really cool that he wanted to reread that one in order to read this one. Then he read 2 of these Treehouse books, the Andy Griffiths 13-story Treehouse and 65-story Treehouse. Now these books are kind of silly. I mean, I've never actually sat and read one, but there are lots and lots of pictures. There's lots of fun dialogue, and so he thinks they're funny and gave them both 5 stars. They're obviously not very thought-provoking, extremely meaningful stories, but they're fun, and from what I can tell, they're fairly clean, and he's a 4th grader. He likes stuff like that. I don't know. Then he read Chocolate Fever by Robert Kimball Smith, and this is the one that I found at a thrift store and just kind of randomly picked up. He thought it was hilarious. It's about a boy who eats too much chocolate and gets sick from it and gets put in the hospital and then escapes and finally finds the cure for his chocolate fever. But my son said it was hilarious, so he gave this a 5-star rating. And then for his Sunlight, I don't have the book with me. The first reader he had for Sunlight this year was More Stories from Grandma's Attic. And that is by Arletta Richardson. And he finally admitted it. I could kind of tell, but I wasn't going to ask him about it unless he brought it up to me. He was not wanting to read this book just because it said something about a grandma's attic, and because there were girls on the cover of it and no boys. He thought that it was going to be too girly for him. He finally came to me today and said that when I asked him what rating he would give that book, he said 5 stars. He loved it, and he told me that he was surprised because he thought it would be way too girly for him. And so that was a win. And then we saw this book. This was our next Sunlight read that he read last week. Pretty thin book. And I was like, ooh, okay, cool. He read that girly book, and then he'll read this and it'll be great, by Sid Fleischman. And he gave this book a 3 stars. So goes to show what I know. He said it was kind of boring, which I've never read the book, but I've kind of skimmed through it and it did not seem boring at all to me, but what can you do? Can't win them all. So last for him, he finally got a hold of the 3rd book in the Wings of Fire series. Got it in from our library. This is by 2E.T. Sutherland. He has loved the first 2, so I'm assuming he will love this one. But we'll find out next month. He's only just a little bit into it. But we had a big long discussion about Wings of Fire today and why he loves it so much. So he said he really wants to buy this whole series to have it on hand and reread it. So that might be a Christmas present. Okay, now for my 2nd grader. Last month he had just started Phantom of the Subway and he successfully finished that. Geronimo, Stilton. I never got into these books when I was younger. I don't even know if they're around. I don't know when they came out, but I've heard lots and lots of good things about them. And I do like how it's a good introduction to chapter books for my 2nd grader. He is a young 2nd grader, and so he's not a super great reader, but I mean, there's full color pictures. There's a lot of kind of fun, if I can find the right page, fun fonts and stuff throughout there to kind of keep it exciting. And so it's not as, it doesn't seem as big of a task to him to read these because they still are fun and engaging inside and not just words on a page. And then he moved right on to Save the White Whale, Geronimo, Stilton. Oh, and Phantom of the Subway, he gave 4 stars, but this one he gave 5 stars. He said this one is his favorite so far. And then I had him read, I thought this looked like an interesting book, and I saw several plays of words, plays on words from Star Wars, and my husband is a super huge Star Wars fan, and so I was like, oh, my sons will like this. Not really. He gave it a 3 star. This is Commander Toad and the Voyage Home by Jane Yolen. He just said he didn't really understand it. And so I don't know if it was like he could read the words, but he just wasn't really comprehending the story or what. He just said he didn't really get it. So again, you can't win them all. He has started and is about halfway through Ivan the Great by Isabel Langis or Langis Cusack. And this again was a thrift store find. And he's also about a third of the way through My Name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton, and he is enjoying this so far. So I'll let you have the full review next month. Does anyone else use Nerf bullets, flattened Nerf bullets for your bookmarks? They have like 100 bookmarks around here, and I still have to use Nerf gun bullets, I guess. And then for his Sunlight reading, they have him just reading through this beginner's Bible. And so he'll be in this a while, like he's not very far. But he gets this reading done really, really fast. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings on this Bible. It's fine. I had this Bible when I was young. It was obviously an older edition, did not look like this, but I remember like when I was a kid, like I feel like I got a lot of truth from it because I wasn't getting a lot of Bible teaching anywhere else. And so it kind of has a special place in my heart, but I also kind of feel like it's kind of shallow, but I mean, it's fine. And that is all for my 2nd grader. For our read-alouds, I think I shared last month that we had started North or Be Eaten, which is the 2nd book in the Wingfeather saga by Andrew Peterson. And we were listening to that through an app that was sponsored by my library. And about halfway through the book, the audio was no longer available. And I've gone to my library several different times and they have yet to figure out why I can't access it anymore. I don't know if there's some sort of contract that expired with it or what, but they're just saying it's totally not there anymore. So I'm waiting on the hard copy from the book, but I'm on a little bit of a wait. So we will finish that eventually. But after that, we listened to Hank the Cowdog, Lost in the Blinded Blizzard by John Erickson. So I have kind of mixed feelings about Hank the Cowdog, but listening to John Erickson himself narrate it was a treat. It was really fun. And hearing the 2 songs that were written just for that book, those were hilarious, and we enjoyed that. We listened to that in the car as we were running errands and stuff, and we all were giggling at that. So that was enjoyable. For our sunlight reading, we are working through Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. This is our second read of this. We read this probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I think we will finish this up this week. And of course, we're liking it because it's Charlotte's Web. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't love Charlotte's Web. And then we have just started last night, Laura Ingalls Wilder by The Shores of a Silver Lake. And we decided we've read the previous books. I think this is the 4th book. Anyway, I think it's the 4th book. And we picked this up because, I mean, we want to get through the series eventually anyway, but we picked this up because we will be going to the Laura Ingalls Wilder home at the end of this month. We've been there before, but we're going to go again with a group of co-op friends. And so I just wanted to have something of hers fresh on our memory when we went. Last night we read the first couple chapters, and in the beginning, Jack the dog dies, and I couldn't read it aloud. I sobbed through the whole thing. Just the way she described him and the memories she had with him. And I had one of those dogs growing up that you feel like helped raise you. And so reading that, I just lost it, and my boys were making fun of me. So those are the ones we're working on, Charlotte's Web and By the Shores of Silver Lake. And then for our picture book recommendation of the month, of course, we've read several picture books throughout the month. I have a 2-year-old, so. But our favorite one this month was a Dr. Seuss classic, What Pet Should I Get? And I mean, I know a few people who don't like Dr. Seuss, but I don't know what's wrong with them. I love Dr. Seuss books. There's some I like better than others, but of course this started all the talking of how my boys really want a dog, and I really want a dog too, but my husband's not so keen on the idea. But it's just such a sweet book, so fun to read, and everyone enjoys it, from my 9-year-old down to my 2-year-old. And so the one podcast I will recommend to you, sometimes I recommend a podcast, sometimes I don't. This month I'm going to recommend The Sword and the Trowel. It is a Reformed podcast, so it is all, talks a lot about current events and how we should look at them in light of the gospel, which I know I share a lot of podcasts in this same vein, but I just really like that kind of stuff, along with true crime and theology and stuff like that. But they touch a little on theology and stuff, but they talk a lot about current events. They just put out an episode recently about home education and why it's important, and I loved it. It just put the words that I think out there and in a better way than I can say them. And so that was a good episode to listen to. Check it out if you haven't. And so for what I'll be reading next month, I'm going to finish up Screw Tape Letters. I'm going to finish up the Pinderwicks, and then I have had this book from the library. I've turned it back in, I think, twice and checked it back out, and I have not taken the time to read it, but I'm going to. Glimpses of Grace by Gloria Fuhrman, Treasuring the Gospel in Your Home. I love Gloria Fuhrman. I've read a couple of her books, and so I'm just assuming that I will like this one too, and we could all learn how to bring more gospel into our homes. So I'm excited about that one. And then I also plan on at least listening to, I don't know if I'll buy a hard copy or not, and I don't think my library has it, but I plan on listening to A Typical Woman by Abigail Dodds. And it is about, we're kind of in a culture where people either completely demean women and think nothing of them, or they worship women and like put them on a pedestal. And how, as Christians, do we live in that tension, and kind of what is our place, and just what biblical womanhood looks like. And you know me, I'm all about that. And then as a side note, one book, I don't know if I'll get to it this month or not, but Allie Beth Stuckey put out a book called You're Not Enough and It's Okay. And I really want to read that, because it's another thing that I'm very passionate about, going against this just love yourself more, just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you can do it culture. I don't buy into that, because really we all need Jesus, and we're all sinners, and we all cannot do life alone, and we're not enough. We can't save ourselves. We can't justify ourselves. We can't do anything apart from the gospel. So I'm really excited to dig into that one too, if I can get my hands on it. It's pretty new, so I doubt my library has it, but I will look into buying it. Anyway, I thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below what you are reading, or if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, thumbs up, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.